In this video, we look at the most popular World War II tank types used by the major combatants and examine when the last of these tanks finally left regular military service. We begin with the very first tanks to be withdrawn from service. Interestingly, it was not one vehicle, but two, the German Tiger I and Tiger II, also known as the King Tiger. No German Tiger tanks served beyond May 1945, and no post-war nations continued to operate them. This was likely due to their severe mechanical problems, the difficulty of sourcing spare parts, and their relatively low production numbers compared to other World War II tanks. Another German design quickly followed, the Panther. France captured many Panthers between 1944 and 1945 and used around 50 of them to equip the 503rd Armored Regiment. The Panther was finally retired from French service in 1952. Around the same time, on the other side of the world, the Chinese People's Liberation Army was retiring its Japanese Type 97 medium tanks. Many Japanese armored units had surrendered in China in 1945, and their tanks were later used by the Chinese Nationalist Army. After the communist victory in the Chinese Civil War in 1949, these vehicles were inherited by the new People's Republic of China. The Type 97 and the lighter Type 95 formed the backbone of China's early armored forces, with 349 tanks listed in inventory in 1949. These tanks were phased out in the early 1950s, with many converted for agricultural use and eventually replaced by the Soviet T-34. Another light World War II tank with a short post-war career was the Soviet T-26. During the Winter War between the Soviet Union and Finland, Finnish forces captured large numbers of T-26 tanks and continued to use them. As a result, Finland became the longest operator of the type. The last examples were retired in 1961, by which time they were being used as static pillboxes. Somewhat surprisingly, the next tank on the list was brand new in 1945, the American M26 Pershing. Despite its modern design, it was quickly overtaken by newer United States tanks in the post-war era. The Pershing left United States service in 1951, but continued to serve with the Italian Army until 1963. Next came another famous German tank, the Panzer IV. Czechoslovakia possessed large numbers of Panzer IVs after the war and sold several dozen to Syria. These tanks were used alongside Soviet armor during the 1967 Six-Day War against Israel, where they proved ineffective on the modern battlefield and were phased out shortly afterward. There is, however, an important caveat. Bulgaria also had many Panzer IVs and used them as static bunkers along the Crowley-Marco line facing Turkey until the fall of communism in 1989. Technically, Bulgaria may have been the last country to operate the Panzer IV, although Syria was certainly the last to use it as a conventional tank. Two famous Allied World War II tanks disappeared from service in 1969. The first was the British Churchill tank. Ireland purchased a number of Churchill Mark VI tanks between 1948 and 1949 and phased them out between 1967 and 1969. The second was the American M3 Lee, which was operated by Brazil. These were gradually replaced, starting in 1957, by the M41 Walker Bulldog, with the last Brazilian M3 Lee retired in 1969. The year 1974 saw the retirement of another classic tank, the British Valentine infantry tank. Widely used by British and Commonwealth forces, as well as by the Soviet Union, Turkey received around 200 Valentines between 1941 and 1944. Turkey became the last operator, retiring a bridge layer variant in 1974. The Soviet IS-2 heavy tank proved so effective that it remained in service for decades after the war in its modernized IS-2M form. Sources suggest that it was finally withdrawn from reserve service between 1995 and 1997. Its successor, the IS-3, saw its last official military use with Egypt in the 1980s. However, in 2014, an IS-3 monument in Ukraine was reportedly removed from its pedestal and briefly returned to service by pro-Russian separatist forces. In 2018, two World War II tank types were finally retired by Paraguay. The first was an upgraded version of the famous Sherman tank, 3 examples remained in Paraguayan service until 2018, although one was later driven during an official military parade in 2022, suggesting that at least one Sherman may still exist in an active ceremonial role. The Second World War II tank retired by Paraguay in 2018 was the M3 Stuart light tank. As late as 2014, Paraguay still had 5 M3s and 5 M3A1s in service, with several more in storage. All were officially retired in 2018, although it is likely that 1 or 2 remain stored even today. In 2019, Uruguay retired its last World War II tanks. The country had acquired 17 M24 Chaffee light tanks and progressively upgraded them over time. These vehicles equipped the 13th Armored Infantry Battalion for more than 60 years before being retired in July 2019. Another World War II tank type lingered on until 2021, the British Comet. Although withdrawn from service elsewhere decades earlier, Comets remained in use in South Africa until the 1980s. The very last examples served in Myanmar, formerly Burma, where 25 Comets were originally acquired. They were last seen during a military parade in 2021. As of 2026, however, 2 World War II tank types technically remain in military service, more than 80 years after the war ended. The first is the Japanese Type 95 light tank. Thailand acquired 50 of these tanks in 1940 and used them until 1959 to 1960. One example remains in Thai Army service today in a ceremonial role, kept in full working condition at the Special Operations Center at Fort Narai. The second, and by far the most widespread, is the legendary Soviet T-34-85. Astonishingly, this World War II tank is still present in several armies. North Korea reportedly has around 200 in reserve. Vietnam uses 45 to 50 as static gun positions, while smaller numbers remain in service with the armies of Yemen, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, and the Republic of the Congo. It seems very likely that if this video were updated again in 10 years' time, some armies would still be operating T-34s. Like the B-52 Stratofortress, the T-34 may never truly disappear. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Many thanks for watching.